Hey guys, it's Lane here, the Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're having another episode of the Sword and Sorcery Book Club, and today we're looking at Solomon Kane, finally. So, the reason I hadn't reviewed this on the channel is because I hadn't had, a copy of it for a long time, and that's because as Solomon Kane was coming out was really when Diamond started to implode very severely, right? And so I didn't really have access to a copy of the book until basically 2 weeks ago or so, right before I went off to Howard Days. And so I wasn't really able to do anything about that. I did finally get my hands on a copy, and as you can tell, I kind of got whatever copy they got, and for whatever reason, that was cover B. This is the Magnolia cover. I'm not a big fan of his. I've never read any of his work, and his art style is not necessarily my favorite, although Hellboy does look really cool. So I'm not necessarily a huge fan of this cover, but it looks good. I quite like it. I think that the covers for Solomon Kane have not really been the strongest. There is one for book 3 that I actually did like a lot. It was cover B, I think, is the one of the shaman lady. And I've already read through the first 3 issues, so I will be doing a video for each of them like normal. But keep in mind that I do have a little bit more knowledge than usual when it comes to these videos. So yeah, let's get going. Like I said, I had trouble getting this in my hands. Thankfully, that trouble seems to have ended, although Dynamite is going to have issues going forward, so I might have issues with other books, but it shouldn't affect anything on this channel. But Solomon Kane by Patrick Searcher, or Patch Searcher. This is basically just done by him. I think that one person or another helps him either with the coloring or with the lettering, but this is primarily speaking a one-man show, right? Or as much as a comic book can be a one-man show. And this is really cool. His art style is phenomenal. His storytelling is also quite good. I think he does a great job with Solomon Kane, and I really enjoyed this. So if you guys have not picked it up, I recommend you do. Although at this point, it might be easier to just trade wait since there's only one issue left, and I assume that Titan will try to get this out pretty quickly since it should tie into the Scourge of the Serpent crossover event later in this year, right? So this opens up in Africa in this place called Ndongo, or Nongo, I guess. I'm not really sure how to say it. And it's a letter. And we see this letter kind of used as the narration for the action that's happening on screen at the moment. So it's a letter from Paolo, I think his name is, to Abramo. And this letter, it might be the other way around, but this letter talks about, the fact that these men have been on adventures before, they're doing work that's important, and they're kind of going through some stuff. And I think it is Abramo's perspective. He's telling him about the fact that he knows that his friend is a bit of a cavalier kind of person, and that he hopes he's not getting into too much trouble. Thing is, this guy is getting in a lot of trouble. He's running from something. He's being chased by serpent men. At least that's what it seems like. They look like men, and then when one of them opens their mouth, fangs can be seen, although you can't see any features on these characters because it's all in shadow. And it looks really, really awesome. And he manages to evade the serpent men enough to get onto the galleon, this Portuguese ship. And then this man meets an unfortunate fate at the hands of Solomon Kane, because later, a few days later it seems, another ship shows up. This is, I guess this would be like a caravel. This is an English ship that attacks the Portuguese galleon. And I guess it might not actually be a galleon, but that's just kind of what I think of all the all of those pirate ship type ships are. And he boards alongside these other guys. I think it's a whole English trading fleet that's turned to piracy in order to develop some gold for the queen. These are privateers at this point. And he gets on the ship, on the Portuguese ship, and he immediately shoots Paolo. And he doesn't want to necessarily. He has difficulty accepting that he has to do this, but at the same time, he's doing it for his queen or his king or whatever, so it's fine. But he shoots the man. He realizes that this guy was an innocent, or as innocent as, a colonizer can be. Although, Solomon Kane wouldn't have thought about it like that. And he asks the man for forgiveness. He prays for him, and then the man, Paolo, gives him a statue, a serpent statue, and he tells him, take this to Abramo. He lives in Venice. Please take this to him, right? And so he is given this quest. He accepts it. He takes the package, and he goes off to to Portugal, or sorry, to Italy, to see if he can get this given to this man, right? And so why does he have to go give them a snake totem? It's kind of unclear, but thematically it makes sense. So we transition over to Venice, where we see an old man who we learn is Abramo, and his daughter, who I think is called Diamanta, which is a kind of weird name. It just means diamond, but I don't necessarily think that this would be a real name that people would give each other, at least not in like a Latin sense, right? I don't think most of us in Latin America or in Latin-speaking languages would call our children diamond. I think it's kind of weird. I mean, we might call them perla or something like that, right? Pearl, but I've never heard anyone called a diamond. But, it's not that weird. It's also made up, so who cares, right? But they talk as they get ready for their day. It turns out that this old man goes to work at a library. He's an archivist of some sort. And he gets there early because he's allowed to. And he uses his time to study. He is someone that really cares about letters and about learning. And so he does this, right? They go off. And the daughter actually stays at home. She does other stuff. Abramo goes on. He has a bit of an altercation with one of the guards that is in charge of protecting the library. And I think this is because he's a Jewish character, right? There is some kind of, difficulty here. In the political climate that we exist in right now, is it smart to include a character like this and put them in a position where they are not the aggressor, right? Either way, you're gonna have someone that dislikes what you're doing. And so, in my perspective, it would have been better to just not have this character be Jewish and make it part of his kind of inherent importance to the story. At the same time, who cares? It's historically accurate. It's fine, right? So it kind of, I kind of feel like maybe in this case, it could have just been any other type of character, any other type of ethnicity that this character had, any kind of other interest, right? But for whatever reason, Patch decided to go with this, and that's what it is. It's not a big deal to me personally, but I can see how readers, especially readers of this sort of storytelling, might have some issues here and there with that sort of portrayal, right? And so I'm curious to see if anyone does have negative or important feelings about this, let me know down below. I don't really care that much either way. I just think it's kind of silly in the current political climate to make that kind of like an important aspect of characters, right? It's kind of like in the latest Captain America movie, there was a character who was obviously Jewish, who was supposed to be a Jewish superhero, and it's like, guys, really, in a military movie, you're gonna put like an IDF member? Like, that's a little sus, right? In this case, it's not anything like that, but still, it kind of feels similar, right? But that's not really that important. I don't know why I spent so long on it, but they move on. And elsewhere, we get to meet two men. These two men are Knights of Malta, which is pretty interesting. I don't know too much about them, but I know that they were involved with the Magenta Crash, which is a UFO thing. And these characters are Rolando Sarza, and his friend, who is, Nico Cassani, right? And so Sarza is a Knight of Malta, and is someone that knows Abramo, right? And so these two men meet. They find themselves in a tavern, and then they go find Solomon Kane, and they find him at this rocky pass. I think it's between, countries, but it leads into Venice, I think. And when they find him there, they have an altercation with him. He gets shot in one of the legs, I think his left leg, but he manages to win the encounter anyways, mostly because he's a rabid dog of God. And so these men are maybe not scared of him per se, but they understand that, he won't lose without them losing too, right? And so we eventually make it back to Venice. We see that the daughter, Diamanta, meets with her father at the library dressed as a upper-class noble lady, which is something she shouldn't do. She's impersonating someone, and she could get in trouble for that, right? Because she's also Jewish. And then as they talk, we get a lot of exposition about the characters. Apparently, Abramo is a Kabbalist of some sort. He knows ancient, hermetic stuff that he probably shouldn't, but it's important to him. He cares about this stuff. He's a mystic of some sort, and that's kind of why he's important, right? Because him and Solomon Kane together can discover some plans later on, right? And we come back to Ndongo, where we see this Jesuit father called Goncalo, I think, Goncalo, talks with one of his new flock members, right? He talks to this young man and this young woman, and he asks the young man to go look for information about what's happening at the port, where they're kind of having some trouble with other groups, right? And as they leave, the young man and this older man that went with him walk away and find a snake man carcass. It's a rotting body. The skeleton is clear and easy to see, and so they can clearly tell that it is a snake man. His head is different from a human's, and it ends in this python-esque kind of like mouth with two what do I call it? Like venom teeth, I guess. I'm not really sure. Fangs. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. And then we come back to Venice, where Solomon Kane has been sitting in Abramo's house when Abramo and Diamanta walk back in. And this is where the story ends for this issue. I think the story was good, like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. The artwork is a 10 out of 10. It's amazing. The colors are great. The style of the artwork is phenomenal. I love the way that Solomon Kane is drawn, because he looks kind of like Conan to me. Like, he kind of feels similar, but he's not quite the same. I like his, Puritan garb. And Diamanta is a beautiful character, and Abramo, clearly has a like old man, like aged look to him, but he's still strong and good. I like it. There is some extra content at the back. This is a Q&A page. It's not bad. It's not, anything I dislike, but I did kind of feel disappointed that we didn't have a Jeff Tranks essay. However, that fixes itself later. I think that the Q&A session was mostly to allow fans of Pat Searcher and of Solomon Kane to express themselves, since we've had a bit of Pat Searcher's Solomon Kane already out in The Savage Sword. And so there was already content that would be possible to include, and they did so. And I think maybe they gave Solomon Kane a few more extra pages here that they would have normally given it. So overall, great stuff. I really, really liked it. I would say that this is like an 8 out of 10 story, 10 out of 10 art, and overall the package was very well done. I'm only sad that I didn't get to, pick it up as it was coming out. I had to wait a few weeks, but that's not really all that important. I guess it was almost 2 months though. So yeah, there you go. That's Solomon Kane issue 1. I will do reviews for issue 2 and 3 in the coming days. I also have a few extra things from Howard Days that I still want to talk about, so I will be doing that probably before this video actually. So this might actually not be relevant, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.